Welcome back in. Welcome back in. Welcome back in. Welcome back in to the David L. Gray Show, voicing truth and reason. I have a big show for you today. A lot of content, a lot to get through, but I'm glad you came in to share this moment with me. I'm looking forward to your comments in the live stream. We are live streaming just on the YouTube today. I'm going to share my thoughts on Father Altman doubling down on Pope Francis not being the Pope, doubling down on the speech that I first heard a lot of when I was there in Chicago at the Coalition for Council Priests, that conference. So I'm going to talk about that, give my critical reaction to that, and I'm going to share bits of our conversation that I had with him about the news coming out that he's not supposed to be in public wearing his priestly garb. I'm going to talk about that conversation that he and I had, and he knew I was making this video, so nothing there I'm sharing that I didn't already tell him about, that we didn't already discuss heretofore. I'm also going to give my comment on the news coming from the pillar that Bishop Joseph Strickland of Tyler, Texas, may be asked in the near future by Pope Francis to resign from his chair as Bishop of Tyler, Texas. And this as a result of an apostolic visitation that he received not long ago, and apparently the recommendation coming from those people that he's supposed to resign. And I really don't think it's going to take you too long into this video for you to realize that you've been lied to by a lot of people who I don't think have your best interest. So we're going to talk about that. That's today's show. So let's get into it.
Hovering over the skies of a post-Christian society, we have spotted a man with a donut in one hand and rosary beads in another.
Child, I'm about to whoop Satan's behind.
He is boldly proclaiming truth and reason like no rigid Catholic ever has before. The David L. Gray Show begins now.
Sorry I didn't get into the live stream on Monday. For some reason, I was talking to one mad mom about this. And she said, this is something that you never hear somebody. She said, I'll probably never hear somebody ever say, yeah, because I told her that I was going to upload this video. I was going to do this live stream. And I said, yeah, oh, shoot, I forgot that I have to go to Paris today. Like, who says that? Oh, I forgot I had to go to Paris, right? But yeah, I did. I completely forgot. But it is when Paris is like next door almost. You do forget. Oh, it's just like, it's just going to Paris. But family had come in, and so we took them over to Paris, did all the usual tourist stuff. And it was funny. It's getting to the point now where friends and family, they come over, and one of our friends, I called this. She said, on social media, she had said this. She said, "Oh, that's the Gray signature experience when you go visit them." So apparently the signature experience when you come visit us is that we take you to France, we take you to Paris, and we may not make it back. We may get stuck because at 7:06, that's the last train that leaves for Germany that goes along that route from all the way up to Frankfurt. And if you don't make that train, if you don't make that ice train, that's a fast train that goes about 320 kilometers, pretty fast. If you don't make that train, you're stuck in Paris. And we didn't make it before, got stuck there. And we almost got stuck there this time. We made it by 6 minutes. I think we got on the train like 7 o'clock. It was crazy. It was hectic. And like the day before that, we got stuck. We missed our bus from Bad Dürkheim. There's the world's largest wine fest takes place in Bad Dürkheim. And we went there, and yeah, we missed the bus back. So we had to get some sort of taxi who charged us he tried to charge us like double the price, triple the price. But yeah, so that was going on. But what I did notice while I was away and tied up for the weekend, that many of you had emailed me or inboxed me, DM me, whatever, on the different social media emails asking me for my comments on the whole thing with Father Altman and Bishop Strickland. And about the Father Altman piece, I get it. I really do, because a lot of you, over 10,000 you, that's how you initially found me on the infamous popcorn video, while I'm reacting to Father Altman in that wonderful video that he did when he's just rallying against the bishops, the politicians, and letting us know who's Catholic and who's not. And that's how a lot of you found me. So, and I know a lot of you still like the work that I do with the Coalition for Cancer Priests, including Father Altman. Father Altman's been on my channel lots of times, and you guys always came out, showed out, asked questions, really supported the channel when he's here. So I appreciate that support, and I appreciate the question. My instant reaction to like a lot of the videos that I saw from a lot of Catholic social media influencers was that, the content was fine. Some of it was predictable, whatever. I was disappointed that no one really reached out to Father Altman from the videos that I saw. No one reached out to Father Altman. I think he's very accessible, whether email or phone call or text message. Him and I, we text message. It's not unrare. It's quite often that we'll go back and forth for a moment about something. So I know he's very accessible. So it's disappointing that everybody's making these content videos, but no one was going to him for the content. So I found that to be a little bit disappointing. But one thing I think I was really disappointed with was just like the campiness that I found in the comment section. And I think that anytime that we conservative Catholics, that may happen with liberal Catholics as well, but typically faithful, conservative, or traditional Catholics, whenever we're told that we're being attacked, that we just have this reaction that we just run to our camp. Like, what does the camp think about this? The camp thinks about, and then we just go camp. We'll say things like, "Oh, I support Father Altman," and I saw that in the comment section of like a lot of these videos, like a lot of that comment. "Oh, I stand with Father Altman. I stand with Bishop Strickland," and I think that, and I don't think that's a Catholic tendency. I don't even know if it's just an American tendency, but I see it tends to happen in politics as well. People just go to their camps and like, what does the camp believe? Okay, camp believes that the sky is red. Okay, but the sky is blue, guys. Yeah. But the camp believes it's red. So stand with the camp. We're going to stay with the camp. We don't seem to have a concern with the truth. Like, what's true? And as a Dominican, for me, that's just like that's all that matters, is the pursuit of truth, because truth is a person. So the pillars of Dominican spirituality is study, contemplation, prayer, and the community life. But all those four pillars are grounded in and lead us towards truth, veritas, like what is true. And so I was a little bit disappointed, a little bit sad. I'm going through these comments, seeing what people are saying, see how people are reacting, and no one's saying, "Oh, what's true? What's true? What's true here?" Right. So we're going to get into that. We're going to go through Father Altman's 20 points of why he's saying that Pope Francis is not the Pope. And we're just going to apply the Dominican principle to these and say, okay, is that true? And even if they are true or not true, we still have to look at the conclusion to what he's saying. He's saying, based upon these 20 points, Pope Francis is not the Pope. Okay, well, is the conclusion true? Because you can have two true things, right? You could say, this color is blue, this color is yellow. The conclusion of mixing these colors together is tangerine. So, what was the conclusion that Father Altman reached based upon the things that he said was true or not true? Did he reach the right conclusion? So we're going to get into that. And if that's the main reason why, if you're watching a recorded video, and that's the main reason why you're here, hit the timestamp below. I'll put a timestamp there, so you just talk to that. But first, we're going to get into the Bishop Strickland piece. Okay. And like I said, in the second part of the show, I am going to talk about conversation I had with Father Altman about this news that came out that he's not supposed to wear his priestly garb. I'm going to tell you some things he told me about that, what's true and not what's true there. But first, let's get to Bishop Strickland, because I know this is a piece that really concerned you, because it came out in The Pillar. And The Pillar is an online publication. If you never heard of it, it calls itself a Catholic media project focused on smart, faithful, and serious journalism. It reported some news and it reported some hearsay, I believe, from several unnamed sources. You know, we never like unnamed sources. Like, put a name on it. Right? Put a name on your source. If it's really true, or it's just like opinion, it is hearsay, oftentimes slander. And I'll get into that piece right shortly. But from several unnamed sources, that Archbishop Robert Prevost, head of the dicastery of bishops, and Archbishop Christopher Pierre, apostolic nuncio, both of these guys are cardinal elects, so they're in guys. They're Francis guys. So they were to present a report, I think, on Saturday to Pope Francis, the results of their apostolic visitation to Bishop Strickland Diocese in Tyler, Texas, as well as some of his actions of late, like going to the LA Dodgers protest with the Skittles, with the whatchamacallits, comments he's made about the papacy and the deposit of faith, and about governance of his diocese. And their recommendation was that Pope Francis, again, this is hearsay, this was coming from the pillar, that Francis is going to ask Strickland to resign. Now, one thing that we have to get into, just off the rip of that report, is who leaked this? What's the motive here? We have to remember that the Pillar is an establishment publication. Is part of the deep church. All right, this is one of their organs. So what was the motivation for getting this story out in the public? Like, who has something to gain here? What's the agenda here? Right. So that's something to consider. But I think there's several Catholic media influencers right now who want us to turn campy over this. They want us to run to our camps. I stand with Strickland. All right. They just want us just to run to our camps. But again, why act culty? Why go all campy? Why go all culty over a story that we don't know why these leftists at the Pillar who work for the establishment church, why they were told to leak this story? The timing of the story and who leaked it, I think, is important. We can't gloss over that. Like I said to you before, and I said this I think my most recent video, I said it again, that you have to listen to people's agenda more than you listen to what they say, because what they say is formed by their agenda. So what's the agenda here? What's the agenda on the Pillar? Because people's agenda speaks louder than words. Now, so I think in true just Marxist fashion, just as Marxists do, or people who seem to have been influenced by just the Marxist strategy of how they've been very successful in organizing people and turning them campy and turning them culty. A number of Catholic social media influencers, I think, are out here trying to make you angry about this hearsay, about what may happen, right? And because of that, I think many of you have been turned into victims over this. Like, you become ampy, you become campy, you become culty over this whole news. And I'm really disappointed that there are some Catholic social media influencers out there who are like saying that Bishop Strickland shouldn't resign. I think that's crazy. That if he's asked to resign, that he shouldn't resign, even if he's asked to personally by Pope Francis. Like, is that true? Like, he should resign? And I think you see, is that at that moment, when you hear some Catholic social media influencers saying that Bishop Strickland should not resign, that he should just fight, that he should just stay, that he should be a shepherd, not of his flock, but of God's flock, that he should just be, he should stay, he shouldn't resign. I think at that moment that you hear people say that, you realize that that person does not care about you They don't care about the soul of Strickland. They don't even care about the church. They're just they just want you to be campy. They just want you to be a victim. They want you to be culty. It is I find it to be a far better path to suffer from the machinations of an evil pope, suffer from the machinations of a bad pope, than suffer from pride. So if Bishop Strickland, if he asks to resign, if he doesn't resign, oh, he said, okay, I'd rather suffer from pride than suffer from the machinations of a bad pope. I mean, what do we have to gain? What does Bishop Strickland have to gain here? If Pope Francis calls him, now if he gets a letter from like some nuncio, if he gets like a phone call or something from a nuncio saying, hey, Pope Francis wants you to resign. No, I'm not resigning. It's too much going on in the church to trust nuncios and these people. But if Francis calls him personally, or he puts in a call to Pope Francis saying, hey, I heard you ask me to resign. Is that true? And Francis said, yeah, I think, it's the best interest of the church. You don't have my full backing. I don't have confidence in you. Then yeah, he should resign. Pope asked him to resign. I think he should. And I'll get to your comments on that in a minute. So let me know what you think. But let me finish my thought here. So I don't think he should resign, if that's the case. Because he doesn't have heaven to gain by staying in, by resisting, and by fighting for something that belongs to God, ultimately. He can only gain hell and lose heaven, I think. Nobody wants a prideful bishop. I think one thing that's amazing about Bishop Strickland now that he is humble. You got a podcast? Call up Bishop Strickland now and ask him to come on your podcast. He probably will, right? He seems to be a true shepherd. A lot of people are even confused how he got into that position, how he just submarined himself into that position. So whoever I think is telling you that Bishop Strickland should not resign, whatever Catholic social media influencer is saying that is, I think, is your enemy. He's the enemy of the church. Let me get to your comments on that real quick, because I see you guys are posting a lot of comments. So let me see what you're saying. Joel saying Father Altman and Bishop Strickland are warning the church to wake up to these are truly servants here. And I think it's interesting that this is going on right now with Father Altman and Bishop Strickland, because Bishop Strickland has always, he came out as a strong supporter of Father Altman when that whole thing went down with Father Altman's bishop. Hey, Diana, glad to see you here. Glad you caught it live. Katie said this was announced yesterday. He is being encouraged to retire. And I think retire, resign, I don't know if those are opposing positions. Because what does a bishop do after he's bishop? Right? So Diane says these are scary times, but please keep the faith. I know this chat, and David does. And he says the cancer priests and bishops are true Catholics, Pope, not so much. October is going to be a bad month. I saw earlier on the podcast, I was going through some podcasts, and I saw Doug Barry's podcast came up in my YouTube feed, and I saw him talking a little bit about October, what is portending. Doug Barry was bringing in some prophecies and stuff like that. I don't know anything about prophecies. I really don't. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to them, other than the ones that are verified and come from the Blessed Mother Mary. I don't know anything about the fringe prophecies. I really don't. But we'll see, right? We'll see. Michelle says, I'm not angry. I'm heartbroken. Right. Spirit Daily is also carrying the same pillar story. It's out there. Sheila says something looms in the future. Michelle, she's commenting on that the whole October surprise. I take a stand. Diane says I'm waiting 72 hours and then form an opinion. More info to discern, pray about it. Yeah, I do the same thing. I always like wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, because there's always more to come. Lori says, "Thank you, Brother David, for your comments. You have brought light and insight to what is going on. Peace is what I search for, and you answered. The Pope is the authority. Obedience above pride." All right, so it looks like you guys are kind of on board with that idea that if Bishop Strickland is asked to resign, you gotta resign. If he acts by the Pope, there's no path forward from there, and he has more to gain from suffering from a bad Pope than suffering from pride. Now, my other point is that I think you've heard from a lot of Catholic social media influencer out there saying that, oh, oh, this is the line in the sand. If Pope Francis does this, it's over, right? He would have gone too far. What is that? The Rubicon, crossing the Rubicon. The line has gone too far. He's crossed the Rubicon now. You got these influencers saying that, oh, Bishop Strickland, he's different from everyone else that Pope Francis has tried to subvert, because he's loved in Texas, he's loved in Tyler, he has an amazing number of vocations, all these stats, right? All these facts, all these things we can say, okay, that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true. The conclusion doesn't match up, though. Things could be true in the equation, but the summation of those units, it may not be true. So, yes, Bishop Strickland, I guess he seems to be a wonderful bishop. I know people who have moved to Tyler, Texas, just for Bishop Strickland. All that's true. But because all that's true, does that therefore follow that this is some sort of line that Pope Francis can't cross? This is some sort of Rubicon, right? No. I think all that makes it more likely, right? At least I do. Let me know what you think. But ultimately, I think that whole line that, this is a line that Pope Francis can't cross. That if he crosses this, we're going to do something. That's just more like campy talk. That's more like, hey, run to the camp, get your ammo. It's not even true. Don't call Tup over that one. Don't run to your camp over that one. Because I'm going to be honest with you. And this is why, I affectionately call this the best, the most honest podcast in Catholicism. I'm about to be honest with you. I'm about to tell you something that nobody tells you. And this is it, my friends. We Catholics, we do not have a revolutionary bone in our body. We don't. Not when it comes to the church. Not when it comes to the church. I mean, Catholics throughout time have been involved in good revolution. True. But when it comes to revolting against our church, we don't. Not because we don't think revolution is necessary, not because we don't think reform is necessary. We'll do reform. We won't do revolution. There's no line that bad popes can't cross with us, because we don't have a revolutionary bone in our body, because revolutionaries, they have something to sacrifice. They have something that they can sacrifice that can harm or damage or affect the person or the group or the army that's attacking them, that's persecuting them, that's subjugating them. We don't have any of that. What are we going to do? Not go to mass? That hurts us. Right? What are we going to do? Not go to mass? Empty out their churches? Their churches are already empty. They're already empty. We don't got that. That's not something we have in our bag of tricks. What are we going to do? Stop giving the church money? They don't need our money. Pope Francis has Bill Gates. He has the Soros. He has China. Right? Pope Francis doesn't need our money. Clearly, the bishops don't need our money. They got the government in the United States and Germany here They have the government. They don't need our money. We don't have a revolutionary bone in our body because we don't have the ammo. We know we can't. We know we can't win the fight. So these Catholic social media influencers out here, man, that's putting out these videos. Oh, if Bishop Strickland is forced to resign, that's going to be it, dude. Guess what's going to happen? The same thing is going to happen when America's Pope Supis closed down the Institute of Christ the King. Guess what you did next Sunday? You took your butt to church. You went to mass on Sunday. That's exactly what you did, and you shut up about it. All right, you were mad about it. You cried about it. You bitched about it. You complained about it. But guess what? You went to mass. We don't have revolution in us because we have to get to heaven. All right, so that's why we suffer evil bishops. That's why we suffer evil popes, bad bishops. That's why we suffer them, because they can't do anything that will harm us and our soul ultimately, because our salvation belongs to us. It belongs to God and the Lamb of God. Right? We have to work out our own salvation, regardless of what happens is going on around us. So that's fake. That's fake news. Nothing's going to happen. Right? We're going to be sad. We're going to be disappointed if Bishop Strickland resigns. All right, we get it. But also we're going to rejoice because we love the suffering. Oh, that's more suffering. Thank you. Thank you, Pope Francis. Thank you. Right? I can suffer this. Appreciate it. That's what we do. All right. So this is no Rubicon Cube. That's I laughed my butt off when I saw that guy put out that video. Like, I was like, I think I was on a train. I think I was on a train coming back. No, my phone was dead by that time. I think I was in France. I was on like the 2 double-decker buses, you know, the big bus that you ride when you go to like these towns. You can hop on a big bus and the tour guide, you listen to some, you know, stuff on your headphones telling you about the city. I think I was on a big bus, and you know, I was just going through my phone, and I saw the video, and I clicked on it for a little bit. I was like, really? That was just so funny to me. It reminds me of that video that I put out with the whole Father Frank Pavone, when the whole thing was on Father Frank Pavone, and you can still find it in my shorts. It's a short video. It's easy to find. You go there and listen to the video if you want to. But in that video, here's what I say. When it came after Frank Pavone, who is beloved, right, in Texas, we're everywhere, the biggest pro-life priest in the country, when it came after him and busted him down, when they laicized him, someone who's influential, powerful, who has money, who has backing of some people, when they came after him and busted him down, I told you guys in that shorts video that I said it was a dry run. It was a dry run. And now you see what I'm talking about. They don't care about how much you love these people. They don't care how influential they are. They don't care what they're doing, what they've done. If Bishop Barron was doing things that Strickland did, as much as Bishop Barron has done for the church, as far as in his Word on Fire series, all those videos that people are using in their churches, they'll bust him down. They don't care about names. They don't care what people have done. Listen, when they came after the Bishop Hawley in Tennessee, and they busted him down, the bishop in Puerto Rico, I think his name was Fernandez Torres, when they came and busted him down, they removed those bishops. They let you know they don't care. And because there's always someone in their diocese, there's always a brother priest, a brother bishop to sell you out. And it's funny that these bishops and these priests, they call each other brother. They're not really brothers. They sell each other out all the time. This is a dysfunctional family. It is. It always has been. These priests and bishops sell each other out all the time. Ask Bishop Hawley of Tennessee. Ask Bishop Fernandez of Puerto Rico. Ask Father Pavone which priest sold him out. And he'll tell you. And you'll be surprised at the name. It's somebody that you kind of like. They sell each other out all the time. And there's always somebody ready to sell you out to the Vatican. So if Bishop Strickland is asked by Pope Francis to resign, he should. There's no other clear option. And yeah, we're going to be angry. We're going to be sad. We're going to be disappointed. But I told you what's coming. All this stuff is just dry runs. More to come, more to follow. All right. And everything that's going to happen is we're going to go to Mass on Sunday. And we're going to pray for the Pope. We're going to pray for Bishop Strickland. Right? That's what happens. We're Catholics. We suffer. We suffer bad popes. Right. Now, I'm about to transition to Father Altman. I'm about to talk about the conversation we had about him being quasi-laicized, not being able to wear his priestly garb. And we're gonna walk through his 20 points of why he said Pope Francis and not actually the Pope. Let me get to a couple of your comments before I get to that. Sharon says she's praying for the good bishop. That's a wonderful response. Yeah, we're going to talk about Father Altman being a set of contests. Diane said, "Amen, Dave. We're not revolutionaries. Not in that sense. Yeah, you're right." Jennifer says Bishop Strickland is only here to shepherd his people. We can't do anything about except pray. What we could do when all other good priests were canceled. David, you are so level-headed. I appreciate that. I'm not trying to cite you. I'm not trying to make you angry. I'm just trying to like be factual with you, tell you some things that are true. Because when we have truth, I think we could do something with that. We can like move into action with truth. Again, that goes back to Dominican spirituality, right? The whole point of Dominican spirituality is that you contemplate, you study so that you can more deeply contemplate. And you could, you study so you can more deeply pray. And by more deeply praying, you can more deeply contemplate. Or even like praying as well as you can, as long as you can, so that you can deeply contemplate. And by deeply contemplating these things, you can then move into action. But it all begins with truth, right? What's true, right? And so that's why we study. But eventually you have to get into action. You have to get into action. Dave, I truly believe the Holy Spirit gives you counsel. Keep on, keep it on. I appreciate that. The trial of Father Altman, Bishop Strickland, only fortify our sanctity. Yeah, we got to suffer this stuff, man. I used to like Father Altman, but he represents the type of Christian who thinks their own moral clarity entitles them to dismiss church authority. We shall see. Right. So, if someone accuses you of a crime you did not commit, would you plead guilty? Insane to attempt to justify your thoughts. Jim has like a whole straw man here. Like, who is even talking about crimes? Like, who is even talking about like that apple when we were all the way in oranges, right? But I think to address your point, Jim, Pope Francis would not be asking Bishop Strickland to go to prison or you go to confession. There's no crime, right? He just has the authority of Pope to ask someone to resign and to accept their resignation. That's it. This isn't even so. I don't even see the comparison here. So I get your point about crimes, going to jail, getting a death penalty or something like that, but we're not talking about that. So come up with a better analogy, and we'll talk more later. All right, let's get into Father James Altman. Let me put the one picture back up because I like it a lot. So Father Altman, so he has a different approach to bad bishops, right? And bad popes. And so when it comes to bad popes, he believes that if a person is a bad pope, then therefore they were not really pope ever. I don't think that's true, right? And we can talk why. So, but let's get to this thing first. And so here is a tweet coming from a Father Schneider on it's not a tweet anymore, it's a post on x.com, formerly Twitter, in which he had said that Father Altman was under a diocesan decree not to present himself publicly as a priest, such as wearing clerics in public or on YouTube videos. And so I saw this on x.com about the same time I saw Father Altman doubling down on his comments he made in Chicago. And so I sent him a text messages about all this, hey, I never saw that YouTube channel. Is that you? We talked about some other things. There was a project that we were kind of working on. And so, we were going a little bit back and forth about that. Then he got back on subject. And I sent him an image of that text message. And he was saying, well, first he was talking about the video. He was saying, he said, I should bring in my phone, but he said in the video, the video should make me eat more popcorn. That's what he said. And then he said about the cleric garb, that's not true about me not being able to wear the cleric's garb in public. So something is off here. So this bishop, this priest right here, Schneider, saying he's heard from the dicastery, he's heard from headquarters in his diocese that Father Altman is not allowed to dress as a priest. That's what he said. And I told him on x.com, I replied to him, hey man, that sounds like hearsay. We need to see the letter. Where's the letter from the diocese that was apparently sent to Father Altman that he can't dress as a priest and he cannot present himself a priest? We, as a laity, we need to see that letter. And so he never replied back to that. Father Schneider did say that, hey, maybe Father Altman maybe he disagrees with it. Maybe he's appealing it. Maybe that's why. But Father Altman is just like, no, that was not in any letter that I received. So something's weird here. And again, let's go back to agenda here. Why was that even leaked? Why did this priest even put this on x.com? So there's a lot of questions there about what's going on here about Father Altman presenting himself as a priest. So I have no reason, in lieu of some letter being put out from the diocese, that what Father Altman isn't saying that is true, because what the diocese has shown us, his own bishop, is that he'll put a skittle in charge of a diocese, a known skittle that plays with people on the Grinder gay app or whatever, the Skittle app Grinder. This openly guy is just openly homosexual. He'll put him in charge of a diocese in his parish, but he'll persecute Father Altman. So I don't trust anything coming out of the diocese unless I see a letter. Show me the letter that Father Altman can't dress as a priest, and then we'll talk from there. All right. And then Father Altman, we started talking about the video that he put out. He's saying, he's gonna make me eat popcorn and this and that, and we got into his argument about Pope Francis not being Pope. And we started talking about, Father Altman, he made a comment, he sent me a message saying that the whole process of people saying that priests and lay people can't say that a Pope is a heretic, there's nothing dogmatically true about that. That's just a lower T tradition that doesn't make any sense. Of course, anyone should be able to say that a Pope has violated church teaching, right? You don't need a council to do that, right? But I think in both instances, when I heard Father Altman give his speech in Chicago, and when I heard him double down on his YouTube production, all right, I was a bit sad at the conference, and at the conference, I think it was different because I didn't hear him in his speech like he ended his video. He ended his video saying, "Hey, the Pope is going to go to hell, and all these people are going to see him fall in hell." And I was like, wow. Now you talk about a Rubicon crossing, like a line you shouldn't cross. I mean, like, wow. I was kind of sad when, like, the whole point, we'll go through his 20 points. He makes these 20 points. He says, but Pope Francis, this proves that Pope Francis isn't Pope. fine. But when he got to the end of the video, and so like, man, Pope Francis is going to hell. Like he's going to fall into hell. And all these people are going to see him. I was like, wow. Like you cannot be a priest and say the Pope is going to go to hell. Right? And I was sad because I want Father Altman to be back in the parish. I want him to be shepherd. I don't want him to be lonely because I think priests who are not in community are lonely. Again, in Dominican spirituality, you have to be in community, whether that's your family or your religious family. Community is what God created us for. So you have to be in community, and priests need community. So priests need to be around the sheep. And so that's where I want him. But when he said that, Pope Francis is going to like, he's damned. I say, oh man, it's over. Like, that's a line you can't cross as a priest. So, and maybe you shouldn't, right? That's pretty deep. But Pope Francis has every pope has three duties. And this is just according to scripture. Now, I've talked about this a lot. I've written about this a lot. The first duty, and all his duties are based upon the confessions that he made about himself, which are 2, and a one that Jesus made about him, which is 1. So you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Peter confesses that. That duty, the duty assigned to that confession, and duties are always assigned to confessions. The duty assigned to that confession is that the Pope proclaims the gospel. He proclaims the truth that has been revealed. The second duty, when Peter confesses, I phileo you, and Christ Jesus responds, then feed my sheep, then tend my sheep, then pasture my lambs. So 3 duties assigned to this 3 confessions, which is really, Peter is called to be shepherd, to lead God's sheep to Calvary. Right? He's leading us to death. The Pope is leading us to death, but a good death. He's leading us to Calvary. The third duty of the Pope was the confession that Jesus made to him. When Jesus said, you're going to deny me 3 times, but when you're going to turn around and you're going to strengthen your brothers, and I pray for you. And I'm going to pray for you that you strengthen your brothers. So this is, Jesus Christ prayed this, so it is true. So the duty of those who are Pope, who are in the ministry of Peter, and not every Pope is in the ministry of Peter, we know that. But those popes that have been elected as Pope, as Bishop of Rome, and are in the office of Peter, who have been given that ministry or in that ministry, who have that charism and grace, they always strengthen their brother bishops because Jesus Christ prayed that they would. So those are the 3 duties: to proclaim the gospel, to shepherd the sheep, and to be a source of unity for the brother bishops. And I made a video about how I will agree that Pope Francis has not demonstrated that he is a successor of Peter in that office. He's clearly elected Pope. He's duly elected, like every Pope before him. So he is in the administrative office as Pope, but is there evidence that he is in the Petrine ministry? No, there isn't. There's no evidence. In fact, there's much evidence to the contrary. The first duty, proclaiming the gospel, proclaiming the truth. Well, he teaches the opposite of that when it comes to the Holy Eucharist. People can argue with that. Michael Lofton and I, we had a private conversation and some emails exchanged where, he disagrees with that. And I understand why. Okay, let's argue here. But clearly he's taught that people who are in grave sin, even people who are not Catholic, can receive Holy Communion. Okay, so he's taught error. Being a source of unity for his brother bishops. No, I don't think so. The only bishops who are in union with the Pope are those who are Skittles. If you're a gay bishop, or you support homosexuality, or you're homosexual yourself, those are the only bishops who are in union with the Pope. Skittles. It's a Skittle papacy. So he's not creating union with all the bishops of the church. In fact, rather, if you are a bishop that's not on board with him, he'll localize you. He'll minimize your influence, or he may even ask you to resign. Right? like the Bishop of Puerto Rico, who came out against vaccines and all this stuff. And Pope Francis like, oh, you know, I just taught that as Catholics you have to receive vaccines. This bishop in Puerto Rico said no. Well, you got to go. So unless you're on board with his agenda, his homosexuality, his globalism, then you're not. That's the unity he's creating, right? So it's not a unity based upon the truth of gospel. And a third thing, being a shepherd of all sheep. No, he's not a shepherd of all God's sheep. In fact, he attacks at least a large segment of sheep. We could call them American traditional Catholics. He seems to attack them. He's quite hostile towards them. So, so as I say now, and as I said in the videos, Pope Francis does not. He's not. There's no evidence so far. We pray that there will be one day, but there's no evidence so far that he's operating in the ministry of Peter. There's no evidence. But this is a bit different than, so what I'm saying is a bit different than what Father Altman is saying, or One Man Mom. Go to her blog, and if she has an article about this, and what she says in her blog is, you know, something I've said before, but I think, you know, she's loquacious enough to, you know, she's articulate enough to say it very well in blog form, that it's okay to be, a person can be a bad pope and still pope. But so these positions, my position that Pope Francis is pope, but he's not operating in the ministry of Peter. He's just administrator, not in the Petrine ministry. Or what one man mom would say, that he's pope, but just bad pope, more succinctly than what I would say. But what Father Altman is saying is something different. He's saying that he's not pope at all. In fact, he still has his name, Bergoglio. And which is, again, a point I disagree with. I don't believe in pope name shaming. If a person is elected pope, they have a right to name themselves. However, that's just a duty of office. Right? Like if you're a president of a company and you want to you're the CEO and you want your own desk, you get a desk, right? Whatever. You know, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect my spirituality that, you know, you're Pope Francis. You know, that's just the name you've chose. But Father Altman is like, you're not Pope, therefore you're Bergoglio. So let's go through each of these points that Father Altman listed, all 20 of them one by one. It's not going to take long, and we're just going to ask a basic question: is this true, not true? And then we're going to get to his conclusion. So first he's saying, and these are, and if you listen to his speech, listen to each time he says from the moment. He says 20 of these from the moment. The first one, from the moment I heard Bergoglio walked out onto the balcony for the first time with the St. Gallen Mafia, his BFF, Cardinal Daniels, who Bergoglio knew had tried to cover up for another one of his brother bishops who had molested not one, but two bishops' nephews. So he's saying from the moment Bergoglio came out on Loggia with this pedophile, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio rehabilitated his BFF boy raper, Theodore McCarrick, and then he gives some details of that, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio appointed boy raper McCarrick's housemate, Cardinal Farrell, to be the head of the cabinet post for family life, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio let Farrell appoint Bishop Pagli as head of the John Paul Institute, and he says, you know, he goes on with, you know, again, I guess the first four of these are just like Skittle stuff. These are just homosexuals being homosexuals and pedophiles, right? You know, so it looks like his first four just has to do with, he knew Pope Francis wasn't Pope when Pope Francis proved that homosexuality is his thing, right? And he says, then for the moment that same Paglia then got rid of all the good staff at the JP Institute for the Family, and then announced that the JP Institute is no longer would teach Humanae Vitae, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio had Bishop Buddies bring the pagan fertility goddess Pachamama, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio insidiously inferred Catholics should not breed like rabbits, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio said the Ten Commandments were not rigid, even though they were carved by the finger of God himself in stone, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio let the Vatican cardinal cronies say that the Chinese Communist is the motto of Catholic social justice, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment we put a statue and picture in his office of Jesus dying and going down to hell and forgiving Judas betrayer and giving Judas the betrayer, even though Jesus said the latter had never been born. Okay, apparently there's a statue in Pope Francis' office that glorifies Judas. And so from that moment, Altman knew he wasn't Pope. For the moment, Bergoglio had 5 meetings with avowed atheists that reported that Bergoglio said that those people who do not repent and therefore cannot be forgiven just disappear after death because hell doesn't exist. I knew he wasn't Pope. For the moment Bergoglio signed the Abu Dhabi Agreement, destroying fundamental and irreconcilable distinction between the Catholic Church and everyone else, I knew he wasn't Catholic. For the moment Bergoglio attacked monasteries and convents and prayerful cloister life that has been the Catholic Church dating back to St. Anthony in the Desert, 300 AD, I knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio went on attacking the Holy Mass of Ages, the traditional Latin Mass, and instead promoted godless worship that allows New World Order, like putting a beach ball on the altar, having those puppets flying around, ever since Bergoglio attacked the Catholic Mass and then attacked Mass nightmares, he knew he wasn't Pope. For the moment, I don't know exactly. Let me see if I could translate it. Looks like my transcriber didn't work here. For the moment, Bergoglio has let every other American Catholic save Cardinal Burke. Okay, this is about sacrilege. When he let Biden and Pelosi commit sacrilege by receiving Holy Communion. And then Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel and lesbian Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Okay, he's talking about sacrilege here. Ever since Bergoglio let all the sacrilege go on, he knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio had a big photo op with Bill Clinton, Soros, and those like. And even though Bill Clinton basically attacked, and Bill and Cleary attacked Mother Teresa, he knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio and American cardinal cronies promoted and fostered the diabolical debacle at the southern border, where 85 or more children had disappeared, and several Catholic charities under the control of Bergoglio did all the evil with the children, and at the border, he knew he wasn't Pope. From the moment Bergoglio allowed blasphemous artists in the Sistine Chapel and make a mockery and desecrate it, he knew he wasn't Pope. For a moment, Bergoglio stopped slapped the hand away. He said, slapped the hand away of the older lady, which is, I didn't remember that one. That's kind of funny. Because all these other ones are like really like serious, like really serious stuff, right? But the slapping hand away of the older lady, like that's when he knew he wasn't Pope. That's that's pretty good though. But yeah, that was kind of that was like really suspicious. Like, would a Pope do that? For the moment, Bergoglio recently appointed an absolute heretic like Archbishop Victor Hernandez of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith, who has all these previous doctrinal errors, who Rome even red flagged, who wrote a book on Your Mouth, the Art of Kissing. It contains erotic language. So ever since that whole thing, he knew he wasn't Pope. And the last one, when Father Altman knew Bergoglio wasn't Pope, is when, for the moment, I'm sorry, that was 20. And then he just sums it. For the moment, moments too countless. So it's kind of like how John, the Gospel of John, at the end of the Gospel of John, the writer of John says there are more miracles than this. There are so many we can't even put in this book. That's how Father Altman ends this numeration, this litany of from the moments. And this could really just be like a whole litany, right? It's very interesting that he put this litany together of things that Pope Francis has done, a small number which he has taught. Right? So so this isn't a list of those theologians who put together, or even a W that the cardinals put together, of actual teachings that Pope Francis has done that are not in keeping with the church has taught. These are just a list, largely a list of actions that Pope Francis has taken since he's been Pope. Things he's done, things he's said, people who he has appointed, people who he has attacked, actions of his such as signing the W, attacking monasteries, buddying up to homosexuals, just a bunch of gay stuff in here. So this is really just a litany of actions that Pope Francis has done. And Father Altman is then therefore reaching a conclusion, like, because these actions 1 through 20, from the moment that he saw these things, he knew, or it was affirmed that Pope Francis was not Pope. I don't think that's a reasonable conclusion. So first, I will say that I will find that this litany of actions of from moments on, I will say that all these are true. I'm like, Pope Francis did this. Like this is true. Like all this stuff you can bring up in court. If Pope Francis was on trial for being like a bad pope, here's where our prosecutor, and Father Altman is a lawyer. These are all things that we would say, okay, yeah, these are true, and the jury should be able to like recognize that, okay, there's evidence backing up all these charges. There's eyewitnesses, there's supporting documentation, there's a record that can prove all these things are true. There's nothing here that I see is false, or even that's like questionable. The only questionable thing I was like the hand slapping thing. It's just not on, it's not like a first degree felony. It's like a misdemeanor, maybe a 5th degree felony, almost a misdemeanor. It's not like all this other stuff is like first degree felonies. Like you get like 20 years minimum for all this stuff, right? But all this is true. So let's just arrive there. All this is true. Everything that Father Altman said about Pope Francis should belong to the historical record. There should be books written about this. Okay. The whole Bergoglio thing, I don't like that. Like I said, his name is Pope Francis. And every bad pope we've had in the church, we call them by their papal name. One of the Urbans was horrible, right? Can't recall their name. But we call bad popes by their name. So Pope Francis is a bad pope, so we call him bad Pope Francis. We call him, you can even say bad Pope Francis, but he's Pope Francis. So, but everything else here, that's legit. Now, do we then therefore go to the conclusion that he's not Pope? No, we cannot arrive there. Especially that a lot of this stuff isn't even like dogmatic. Right? He didn't even bring up the Holy Eucharist thing. So none of this stuff makes him not the Pope. It just means he's a bad Pope. It also means that this is even more evidence he's not even operating in the ministry of Peter. Saint Peter would not do any of this stuff. None of it. Right? None of our good popes would. So I disagree with Father Altman there, and I think you should too. And I don't think that's a reasonable path to take. That he's not Pope because he's done bad stuff. He's Pope. He's just done bad stuff. And also because of this, let's deal with the whole sedevacantists thing. Sedevacantists, we can't throw around, we can't call Father Altman a sedevacantist because sedevacantist, Father Altman would say that Benedict was Pope. But Father Altman also says, he did say this in the text message or text messages exchange. I asked him about this. I said, people are calling you a sedevacantist. And he has said, no, simply the seat is empty, full stop. He's not taking the classical, or this is called classical, for lack of better words, or heretical, for a better word, heretical position of those who call themselves a sedevacantists, who are saying like the last pope was a pope before Paul VI or something like that, right? So that's the position they're taking. So they're not going to recognize John the 23rd. They're not going to recognize John Paul I, John Paul II, Benedict XVI, or Francis. There's like 5 decades of popes that they're not going to recognize. Your heretical sedevacantists who have their own churches and stuff. Father Altman isn't saying that. He's just saying that the seat is vacant because of the litany, that he was never pope. And we know this because of the litany of bad deeds. So Father Altman is not a sedevacantist, nor is he a benevacantist, somebody who may say that Benedict didn't actually resign, and that if he were still alive, he were pope. Father Altman isn't even saying that. He's just saying that the seat is empty because this guy is a fake. Full stop. So that's where we're at, and that's where I'm at on Father Altman. And let me get to your comments before we wrap this up. Wow, you guys got a lot of comments. Let me see where I can begin. All right. Let me see where we can begin. All right. That's where we end it. All right. I'm there. Oh, and my friend, Alex. All right. Alex says, Catholic Twitter has been blowing the last few days before the Altman video, and now news of Bishop Strickland. I hope we don't have any more bombshells. Yeah. I think there's going to be some bombshells, right? Maybe, definitely when the whole Senate comes, right? There's going to be a lot of fear mongering there. Deacon Toby, my friend, he says no resignation. The present Catholic culture of apology and resignation for least little thing is liberal force multiplier to defeat ancient truth. Do not fail for taking down legitimacy. Remember Joan of Arc. Yeah, I agree. I don't think Bishop Strickland has anything to apologize before. And his apology should not, if he resigns, it should not become by way of him admitting error. He doesn't resign because he was in error. No, he resigns because the Pope asked him to resign. And that's why he resigns. Hey, because the Pope asked me to. He's Pope. Cindy says, the news is so disturbing. I need to read some scripture and to be in prayer and keep my eye on the Lord who says all things work out for good. That's true. Catholic Cristero says they've been canceling obedient clergy for decades. And now, yeah, you're right. We just know about it because of social media. And they've been bishops in every diocese. If you have a good priest, you have a bad bishop, but you have a good priest. Notice how that priest is never anywhere near a church that's within, 20 miles of the chancery. Right? good priests are always put out their way in the country, aren't they? Aren't they always put out way out there usually? So they've been finding ways to cancel priests for a long time. Mary M says, my coach says, Father Altman is like the first one out of the foxhole. He has vocalized what many are thinking. Yeah, and I think that's part of like why people get campy, why people run to their camps, and they get in the comment sections like, oh, I stand with Father Altman, I stand with this person, because I think a part of us does want someone to represent us, someone with a voice, someone who can be heard. Because a lot of us, we don't have that voice. We cannot be heard. We're like John the Baptist. We're like Jeremiah. We're just calling out in the wilderness. No one's listening to us. And things are wrong. Yet we don't feel heard. We don't feel like we have a voice. So Father Altman, Father Bishop Strickland, they become our voice, right? So we get campy. Like we run to the camp. Hey, we have a spokesman for our camp. Let's support him. Let's get behind him. I think it's reasonable. Ultimately, though, I don't think it's healthy. Because what happens when your camp loses a spokesperson? When you put all your trust in a person, you didn't put all your trust in truth, what happens? You got to recover. And it's going to hurt really bad. Cindy C says, these men of God are truly saints for being bold and speaking the truth. We have sheep in wolves' clothing that have infiltrated the church all over. Do not lead a church, for it is the one. That's true. Trisha calls it all the silent bishops will be blessing sodomite unions very soon. Yeah, it's going on everywhere. I kind of laugh when people talk about, now that I live in Germany, right? I kind of laugh when people like talk about, oh, those German bishops are so bad. Dude, you haven't even heard about France, have you? Like French have been doing gay blessings for like so long. They've probably been doing it since like the 80s. But the Germans, they're just loud. They've always been loud, right? Germans are just loud people, especially German women. If your mom is German, you know that I'm telling the truth. Trish also says, support our beloved sideline priests whose numbers are growing. Nothing to the bishop's appeal. Yeah. And support organizations that support these council priests. Because once you're canceled as a priest, Father Level from Coalition Council Priests, he's been on the show, talked a lot about this. Your bishop doesn't have to give you money to live on. You may just have to figure your way out. And what skills do you have? You have a PhD in theology, a master's degree in theology. You can't teach anywhere. No Catholic school's going to hire you. Like, what skill set do you have to be able to work and make a living for yourself? Be able to feed yourself, put some new tires on your car. So it's hard. Laura says Pope Francis is for climate change. So Laura's saying this is like a Bishop Altman. From the moment I heard Pope Francis teach about climate change. Yeah, it's weird, man. But it's his opinion. He's allowed to have his opinion. Just don't try to force me into your opinion. It's whatever. Here's somebody who doesn't agree. This person, Father Altman, is a conceited YouTuber, disrespectful to the church. Hey, Marmy, how about you capitalize church? Like we know who you are now. Like you didn't capitalize church. Like if you're really serious, like if you're really Catholic, you really love Christ and his church, you're gonna capitalize church. That's all I have to say about that. Like you're calling, you're calling Father Altman disrespectful. Put a capital C on church, man. Jeez. Keith P says, why should he be forced to resign if Pope asks him to resign? Pope can demand it or fire him if he wants to back out, but merely asking someone for something doesn't mean they have to. Strange. Keith, I don't know what part of the video that you missed, but the point is, why would he stay bishop if the Pope is asking him to resign? I think it's just a bad look. It doesn't look good for us to see. It's bad on so many levels. First, it looks bad for him looking prideful, like he's owed something, like the seat of the bishop in Tyler belongs to him, as if the sheep in Tyler belong to him. They don't, they belong to God. So it's bad on his part to be this person who is too prideful, who think things belong to him that he can't resign. It's just bad spiritually. That's not even how you get to heaven, right? First of all. Secondly, it looks bad on the church. So we have a bishop in Tyler who just has his own fiefdom, who has his own king, has his own kingdom. He won't resign. And so the world sees this, the church sees this, it's on the news, it's on CNN, it's on ABC, it's on MSNBC, it's on BBC, it's Al Jazeera, all the liberal news outlets. They're going to leverage this as Bishop Strickland against the Pope. Let me know. It doesn't take a whole lot for you to imagine how this whole thing plays out. All right. I think you're probably smart enough. You use enough words here. Right? Looks like you have some good punctuation. Not really. But you seem like you understand words, so you probably understand. You probably use your imagination and just logically follow how bad this is on so many levels. That's why he resigns. He resigns for himself. He resigns for the church. I could go on and on about this, but I hope that helped you a little bit. Laura says, dead baby vax for all. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't that amazing. We had a Pope who told us that we're not good Catholics and we don't get a vaccine. Like from the moment Pope Francis told us, that's what I knew he wasn't Peter, right? I knew he wasn't operating in the ministry of Peter. Like Peter would not force us or like say we're not like real Catholics if we don't get a vaccine. Really? Like from the moment, right? Jeez. Betty Gar says, but David, Father Altman said repeatedly in that video that the 20 points prove that he is not Catholic, therefore, not Pope. Yeah. Yeah, he would also say, and I think he also says in the video that he's a false prophet. All right. So he says a lot of things, not Catholic, a false prophet, not Pope. I think the not Catholic thing is less serious. If Joe Biden's a Catholic, he's not a faithful Catholic, but he's baptized Catholic, right? He's not a Catholic in communion with the church. So I don't really think that's like a serious thing, like not Catholic. If you're baptized Catholic, you're Catholic. We can just admit that, but we just have to use qualifiers. You're not faithful Catholic. You're not a Catholic in good communion with the church, that type of thing. So. Let me get to some more comments. Admathoria, I haven't gotten to her yet, said, all I can say is that we need to pray for the church. And Marmar, if you're still here, look at Admathoria's message here. Look, She starts off with a capital letter. She has a period at the end. Not only does she say church capitalized, but she says the church. She capitalizes the church, and then Pope, the Pope, and bishops and priests, period. This will be one bumpy ride. Look at this sentence structure. You have two sentences here, very well. But just going back, just notice how she capitalized church. See, this is how Catholics speak of the church, the church. I even think I'm a really good Catholic. I think I'm a really good theologian, a good historian of church stuff. I don't even put the like that. I've never written the Catholic Church. So Admatoria is even more Catholic than me. But I think that's how you do it. That's evidence of somebody who loves the church. Look at that. All right. Diane Kelly, haven't seen this in a moment. Stay calm, Catholics. God has this. He knows how all this comes out. Keep the faith. Amen. Ms. Mars said, oh no, I got the wrong one. Ms. Mars says, I agree with Mary. I love Father Altman. He's a truth teller. Yep. Tisha has some explicitives here. She says, I wonder if the day Strickland's organization, he would ever have dreamed of the bleepy blip Pope would ask him to resign someday. No, he didn't see that one coming. Like, who would see that coming? Who would see that coming? Like, even the man who's at the altar, even a woman at the altar, like, they don't imagine. Some of them should. You should know who you married. Like, you know, if you marry like a, how many people get it at? But nobody, no person like imagines their spouse cheating on them, right? Even though some people should, but most people don't even imagine that. So let alone a bishop imagines that. Strickland's mistake is that he submarined his whole career as a priest, as working in a chancery, all his other assignments he submarined. Nobody knew who this guy was. And then he becomes bishop, and gradually he begins to show his true nature. And it was kind of like after Vatican II, after Lumen Gentium, the church went almost 2,000 years and never did any ecclesiology, which means she never told the world truly who she is. The first time she did was in the Nicene Creed. I'm sorry, in the Creed of Constantinople, the second part of the Nicene Constantinople Creed. That's the first time she told the world who she is. The second time was at the Second Vatican Council in Lumen Gentium. And the world looked at her and like, hey, I don't like you. I liked you better when you said nothing about yourself. I like, when you're kind of like a guy, the guys who always got the girls or the guys who didn't talk, right? If you're a silent guy, you're mysterious. Girls seem to like you. The more you run your mouth, the less they like you. High school logic. And it was kind of like that. Like the church opened her mouth, and she said, hey, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And it was like that girl back in 2011, I think it was, or 12. A girl I dated like a long time ago. Well, I thought I had a lot of potential. Like we had a little spark a long time ago. And I think, hey, maybe this is the one. Hey, yeah, I don't like Obama, right? And true to form, as most Black American women, she said, I don't like you anymore, right? It's like that. You tell people who you are, they don't like you. Vatican II, Lumen Gentium. The church say, hey, this is who I am. Half the people left. Same with Bishop Strickland. Now he's telling people who he is. The church is like, hey, I'm cool on you. We don't like you that much. You should resign. That's life. Sometimes it's better just to keep your mouth shut. Brass Mom, my cousin is a personal friend of Father Altman. He has been forbidden to wear his cleric. Hasn't been forbidden to wear his clerics yet. Yep, same thing he told me personally. So we need to see the letter that this Snyder person is saying that's out there. I used to give it to the Bishop's Appeal. That's before I knew they took a big chunk of my tithing money. I had no idea of supporting the sense in my diocese. Yeah. And you still should give money to your diocese, I mean, to your church, right? Just, you could label it. If you have a good church, label it. This is just for church expenses. Or is there something the church needs? And I'm a pastoral life coordinator myself. There's always stuff we need, right? That we have to pay for, especially like for RE. Sometimes kids don't come with notebooks. You could sponsor a kid for RE. Sometimes the church needs a new third for some new patents. I mean, there's so many things you could just do for the church without giving the church money. Matthew says, I heard somebody said it very well. If Pope Francis and the Vatican for Bishop Strickland and Father Altman, they should do the same for priests that commit sacrilege at the Mass. Yeah. I think I understand what you're saying. We got a testimony. We got a character witness here. Father Altman, I met him at the Dodger debacle. What an incredible priest. I don't even know what Laura's referring to here, but I think that's funny. All bishops faithful to the positive faith need to shepherd the faithful during these troubled times. Those who aren't faithful aren't doing their job. Yeah. And it looks like Laura Anderson is like doubling down, like the church. Yeah. Just so you don't believe it's like some other church, like the Ohio State University. Paul says it may not be just pride versus machinations for Bishop Strickland. Maybe he will want to give an example of resistance despite the suffering himself that will ensue. I pray he will do God's will. Yeah. Like I said, I still stick to my thing. I think he should resign, but I don't think he should resign like the other bishops who have resigned. The good bishops have resigned, like Bishop Hawley, Tennessee, Bishop Fernandez, Puerto Rico. I don't think they should just resign and disappear. Yeah, Bishop Strickland should resign if asked to. Humility is a grace, and I think he has it. So I think he would resign. But I don't think he should just disappear. I think he should be better than what we have in Archbishop Vigano, who's just like sitting in his mom's basement, keep writing these tweets and stuff like that, and doing videos for LifeSite News. That's not helpful. Bishop Strickland, as bishop, who can never have his faculties removed, I don't think is bishop. And he should be better than Lefebvre. He should be a bishop who celebrates the traditional Latin Mass, a bishop who still teaches, a bishop who still hears confessions, a resigned bishop who still travels around, a resigned bishop who he could be, I think, a really powerful and free resigned bishop. All right, just imagine Bishop Strickland free. I think that would be amazing. Mary McCullough says when Pope Benedict XVI resigned in a lightning struck the Vatican, that was her. that was part of her litany. Like from the moment I saw lightning strike that lightning rod at the Vatican on top of the Sixtine Chapel, I believe. That's when I knew some bull crap was about to go down. Yeah. A lot of people say that. Matthew says the next Father Hell No episode, his response to getting the vaccine. Father Altman responds to the vaccines. That's very interesting, Matthew. I'm going to get to that one. And probably a mask too. Mask. I may get that one. If I do that video, which I'm pretty sure I am, let me write that down. I'm going to give you credit for that show concept. Father Hell No takes on a vax and mask. Oh my gosh. It won't be the next father. The next Father Hell No that you'll see. Father Hell No, he's doing an exorcism. Imagine Father Hell No doing the exorcism. I think it's going to be a really good one that I think you'll like. Yeah, Joe says they donate to their local monks. Yeah, that's a good one. Bob's been to Durkheim. Bad Durkheim, you've been there. Yeah, yeah. That the International Wine Fest in Bad Durkheim is out of this world. Our Holy Mother knows the faithful do not worship Mother Earth nor pagan idols like Pachamama. I doubt Big Strickland approved of the Pachamama Day at the Vatican hosted by Francis. Yeah, I like that sentence structure. That's good. Thanks for that. Thanks for coming back. Haven't seen you in a while. Laura Anderson brings up a point, right? Like, what do you do with a bad pope? Like when I was conversing with Father Altman, this came up, and I was like, the last time that the church's only response to like a really bad pope is conciliarism. Like the bishops of the world get together and they're like, hey, we got to do something. And that's really the only way to remove a bad pope. That has like some serious outcomes that are unhealthy because it sort of elevates bishops above the pope. It sends a message to the world that the pope really doesn't have authority. So you need like a whole Vatican I to fix that whole thing, to put the pope back in charge and let people know. So there's like really no good options to removing a bad pope. But it may come a time when conciliarism is the only option, because I don't know what else you do. Like poison the pope, assassinate the pope. Those have been options also. Those have always been on the table back in the day. So hopefully those things aren't on the table anymore. Hopefully. But you don't have a whole lot of options to remove a bad pope. Paul says people are confused and Altman just wants to make it real simple for a common person. Keep the faith and ignore this pope because he teaches heresy, just as Father Altman did. Just as Father, he's talking about regarding when Father Altman is talking about people who vote Democrat. Yeah. Yeah, this is a common tactic. Marmy says, when the church, oh, good job, love. Look at Marmar with a capital church. You came back strong. Look at you. I'm proud of you. Let me read this. When a church had a problem with another charismatic, Reverend Father Mbaka of Ignu, Nigeria, he was sent to USA LA. Yeah, because that's where you send people to get their life together in a den of heresy, huh? Oh my gosh. McCarrick was laicized, correct? If so, can't Pope Francis do the same thing to Bishop Strickland? I think it would take an extreme measure to laicize a bishop. There's room for that in canon law. It's possible, but that's really extreme. I can't imagine it would go that far. If Archbishop Vigano has not been laicized, then Strickland isn't going to be laicized either. Amathorius says, yeah. Father next no, in the next episode does an exorcism. It's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. uh, Tish is trying to give spoilers. Let me see. Father Hell No gets terrified of demon and screams. No, that probably doesn't happen, but it may be. We could go there. My wife is in the background of the video. This has never happened before. It must be time for me to go. So let me get one more comment. I think a funnier thing is a demon screams when they see Father Hell No. I don't know if that's in this video, but that may be something. We could go there. Thanks for that idea. Do most Protestants now believe that the Pope is actually Protestant because he walks, talks, and apparently agrees Luther was right about the church? Yeah, as a Pope Catholic. All right, let me get out here. My wife came into the office. That's never happened before. So it must be time to go. I must have something to do. Don't quite know what that is. But until then, until next time, I'll see you guys. Let me get out of here. Where is the exit? There it is. Thank you for watching the show. For more content, just smash that subscribe button and a notification bell, and you'll be notified whenever I upload new content, hopefully, but not always. You'll get that notification. And also, please consider becoming a sponsor of the show. You can do this a couple ways, either by going over to patreon.com/David O'Gray, and just for a couple dollars a month, you'll have access to all of our exclusive content over at stdominicsmedia.com, or become a YouTube member of this channel. And again, for just a couple of dollars a month, you'll have access to all the content on this YouTube channel that is older than 5 months. But either way, please keep me in your prayers and I'll keep you in mind. And remember that Jesus loves you and is there for you. Thank you.